On the face of it, the natural world appears to be a random, frenzied, and chaotic place. But a closer look reveals an emerging pattern, from the petals on a flower to the meandering track of a river. Geometry in the natural world seems to be repeated at different scales. A fractal is a shape that appears again and again, but on a different scale. One part of the fractal reveals the shape of the whole. It's a profound idea that's providing a new insight into the living world.
Don't step in the plot. It's very easy to trample this vegetation.
One pioneering experiment is using small fractals to understand a big atmospheric equation.
We're using fractal geometry to help us understand and hopefully predict the total amount of carbon dioxide that comes in and out of the ecosystem, effectively how the Earth breathes.
Apparently, the answer may lie in the geometry of individual plants.
If you were to invent CO2 goggles and put them on, what you would see is photosynthesis and respiration in plumes and waves all across this valley. CO2 coming in, CO2 coming out.
What he's looking for is a pattern, a relationship between a single plant or leaf and the environment surrounding it.
Within nature, we can identify patterns. Those patterns then can be described mathematically. And that's actually very powerful, because then if we have a pattern, we can then use that to more accurately predict and understand nature.
Mathematics can reveal invisible orders in nature. An X-ray of the human arm shows a numeric design that's expressed throughout nature. One bone at the top connects to 2 bones in the forearm. Those connect to 8 bones in the wrist, which feed to 5 bones in the hand and 3 bones in each of the fingers. This series of numbers is part of the famous Fibonacci sequence. Each number is the sum of the 2 numbers preceding it. When plotted onto a graph, a spiral emerges, matching the exact pattern of a pine cone. The same curve can be seen in a nautilus shell.
A pattern is effectively the basis of how to do science. Scientists look for patterns in nature. And as biologists, we look for patterns in biology. Once we identify a pattern, that implies then potentially we can predict something about the world.
This natural mathematics contains other wonders. Dividing any number in the Fibonacci sequence by the one preceding it results in a magical number, 1.618. It's a ratio dubbed the golden mean. It's also demonstrated in the human arm. The difference in length between the forearm and the hand is equal to the golden mean. The same goes for the 3 bones in the finger. It's even in our DNA. The Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean are examples of fractals. Patterns of veins within a leaf mirrors the branching pattern of the tree. The fractal is the same shape, just repeated at different scales.
A fractal implies self-similarity. And a self-similar pattern, then, is a pattern that is repeatable and observable at multiple different scales of observation.
Fractals provide amazingly efficient building blocks for vast structures found in nature. Like the 96,000 kilometers of veins and arteries packed inside a human being. or the almost 2 meters of DNA strands packed into a microscopic cell. Lined up end to end, the DNA of just one person would stretch to unimaginable distances. Fractals seem to be at work everywhere. The number and size of the branches in a single tree closely reflects the number and size of trees in the wider forest.
If you look at an individual tree, and if you step back and if you look at an individual forest, what you'll actually find is a similar mathematical pattern.
It's that pattern that could reveal the answers to huge questions, like how much CO2 moves through the environment. The answer may lie in a single leaf.
And so what's really cool is that if you actually look within that branching pattern that you see within a leaf, we can see within the branching pattern of an entire tree, and actually if you look at how plants pack into the natural world, it's actually quite similar. So I should be very gentle with this one.
But finding such patterns involves painstaking work.
If we have a closed, controlled little environment, we put our CO2 probe within the tent, and we can measure very quickly how fast then the plants scrub that miniature atmosphere of the CO2. So here, we're setting up the CO2 probe. Let's go ahead and lower the tent. Go. Chain off. So we're making a flux measurement right now. You can hear the little fans on the inside, and so we're mixing the air. These plants are scrubbing this little atmosphere of the CO2 that's inside the tent, and we can record how fast they're doing it.
448, 446.
Wow, it's really dropping fast.
443. The plants actually took in about more than 10% of the carbon dioxide that was in that tent at the time.
Yeah, great job, plants. So we're going to start chopping this one apart.
Every plant that was in the tent was carefully measured, cut, and bagged for analysis.
6.5? 6.5. In the laboratory, we take apart plants and we measure the nutrients in the plant. So if we know how much plant material is in one space and we can estimate how much plant material is at the larger scale, that's how we can actually link our measurement at a small size to the measurement of carbon dioxide at a large size.
It's hoped such work will reveal the fractal architecture of this mountain meadow.
When you clear a plot and pick out each of the individuals, what you'll actually find is a distribution of sizes. That is, there are going to be very few big individuals and a heck of a lot of small individuals. And what's absolutely fascinating is that pattern is a fractal pattern. As you zoom in, as you go from the landscape scale down to very small scales, at each of these different spatial scales, we see this same distribution of sizes. And that distribution of sizes is fractal, or self-similar.
Perhaps such fractals could be used to make global comparisons and calculations. The results would provide a global picture of CO2 absorption and accurate predictions of the atmospheric effects of changes to the environment.
We're about to see an enormous amount of change that's going to be occurring within natural ecosystems, and so we want to know what's going to happen. And what we're trying to do is utilize these underlying mathematical truths about nature to try to help us predict what may happen in the future.
The mathematics of nature is giving science the language to understand our planet on a much deeper level. The ability to see how a living Earth works. But what about humans? Perhaps the same fractals and numerical codes found in nature can provide new insights into society and our relationship with planet Earth. Once again, researchers were looking for patterns. They found one by plotting an animal's energy needs in relation to its weight. A mouse needs a lot of energy in relation to its size, has a fast heartbeat, but lives for a short time. An elephant is the opposite. It needs less energy per pound, has a slow heartbeat, and lives a long life. All mammals seem to fit along a sliding scale.
Each mammal that has ever existed on this planet, no matter how small or how big or what color they are, we are each some scaled version of one single mammal.
Intriguingly, inanimate cities and towns seem to follow the same pattern found in living mammals.
It's quite fascinating what we found. Just as a blue whale is a scaled-up version of an elephant, which is a scaled-up version of a human being, it turns out that New York is indeed a scaled-up version of San Francisco, which is a scaled-up Boise, which is a scaled-up Santa Fe.
But there was one key exception. The bigger the animal, the less its energy needs and pace of life. Cities are the opposite. The bigger they get, the more energy they need, and the faster everything moves.
If you look at spread of disease, rate of transactions, all of these increase as the city gets bigger. Even the pace of walking. The rate at which you walk amazingly increases systematically with city size.